So we're not live, just to let you guys know, but we are recording this. This is Lexington City School Board of Education informational session, conversation with Lexington City Council regarding some partnership opportunities, I guess you could say. So at this time, I will turn it over to Dr. Wells.
Well, you did dirty work and hard work to me. So I'm excited because I've worked with some of you in the past and have really enjoyed those experiences and that partnership. And I think this is, like Mr. Horton said, a great opportunity for us to continue our partnership. I want to share with you a little presentation regarding why you're here today. And so Lexington City Schools has already made significant investments in the academic performance for kids. We have invested very heavily in our opportunity culture model, where we have teachers who are supporting teachers to ensure that all of our kids have access to a highly qualified teacher in the classroom. We have invested in our digital learning initiative, which is our Apple initiative. Every student in Lexington City Schools now has access to an iPad in classrooms. At the high school, there are also MacBooks. Teachers all have iPads and MacBooks that they can use as instructional tools in the classroom. All of our classrooms have Apple TVs for teachers to utilize and make connections for kids. We also have lots of dual enrollment. The school board has invested in using our transportation to provide kids access to DDCC so that our kids don't have to find their own way or, not be able to go because they don't have their own transportation. So we're providing transportation. We are, of course, paying for textbooks and things of that nature. So we have increased our dual enrollment options for kids significantly. Now we're ready to invest in some of our athletics and our facilities. And so I have a very short video that I'd like to share.
For over 60 years, the Lexington Senior High School student athlete has enjoyed competing in the Philmont Memorial Stadium.
I see it. Why you don't see it?
It's not an apple, it's the reason why it's
Tell it again.
That may be it. That's a lot going on. There you go, genius. Thank you. Now we have the audio.
For many epic meets, matches, and games. And these bleachers have held the faithful Yellow Jacket fans for nearly 7 decades.
There are many wins and losses right here. Many records set, championships won, and most importantly, thousands of kids have learned to push past what they thought their limits were. Dream bigger, dig deeper, reach higher, and achieve goals that they never thought were possible.
Amazing athletes and students begin their journey right when I'm starting. All conference, all county, all region, and all state honors have been earned by our Yellow Jackets for years, as well as a good number of national awards too.
Lexington Senior High School has enjoyed a rich tradition of preparing students for the next level, both in the classroom and on the field.
The roots for many college athletes began right here. Some even made it to the pros.
Helping students hone their skills academically, and athletically has always been the heart of Lexington City Schools' mission.
This community has a great history of showing up and giving back to this community, especially when it comes to our student athletes needing support.
We have a track our kids do not safely run on an athletic field that needs to be brought up to the 21st century.
We can help our students reach their full potential by giving them a safe facility to compete in. Join us in raising funds to give our student athletes the facilities they deserve.
This is your chance to be a part of our student village.
One yellow jacket is a powerful creature.
But the whole line of yellow jackets can really get the job done.
Help us help them to be smart.
Some of you may know Jarrell Smith. He's a former student here in Lexington. Cut that off unless you guys want to hear the swarm play. So we believe that there are several benefits to us updating our school facilities. And so first, you've already heard that we need to provide a safe playground, track, football field for our students. We believe that updating our facilities will increase school pride. We want to make sure that we are increasing positive community perceptions about our schools, about our students. We want to bring a higher level of attention to Lexington Senior High School. And we want to provide a high-quality field for future revenue for Lexington City. Not just Lexington City Schools, but the city itself. Because we believe that we can, in the future, bring in AAU tournaments, conference and state matches, facility rentals can be used at our high school on the football field and for our track. Right now, we have been working with Ben Palmer, who's been contracted through Martin, Davis, and Powell. We've gone through our design development and all the things that you see before you. We actually have our bid opening meeting on tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. We had about 6 or 7 folk to come out to hear the pre-bid meeting presentation that Ben conducted that included a question and answer session for those folks who were interested in bidding on our project. And so we will see tomorrow what kind of bids we receive. We have an estimated project cost, and it's been broken down here for you, the turf field and all of the events area, which include our high jump, our pole vault areas, our track area. We have some storm drainage issues underneath our track that need to be addressed, and then there are some dollars set aside for construction contingencies. The total estimated project is about $1.5 million. We have secured some funding already. Our Board of Ed has put aside $500,000 from our fund balance. We have a capital paving line item in our budget for, and it's been there for a while, to address our track issues. And so we have about $80,000 there. And the county commissioners have agreed to provide us with the dollars to repair some storm drainage and to repair our track. And that contribution from them is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $437,000. So once you back all of those funds out of that total projected cost, we are still left with about $554,650 that we need to set aside to complete this project. We also have an issue, some of you may know, some of you may not, that underneath the street on Hempstead, between the middle school and the high school, there is some damage to the drains. The existing pipe under Hempstead is 15-foot corrugated metal pipe. We will need to tie into that pipe for this project, but we can't tie brand new piping into very old piping, because we're gonna have to go back up and dig it up later on. The pipe was inspected when we did the work at the middle school. I don't know if you all remember, we had some sinkholes over at the middle school, and so we had to address those. The recommendation from the engineers that we have to replace and upsize the pipe under Hempstead, and that is a city street. The engineer's recommendation is that the city be contacted, and that's one of the reasons why you guys are here as well, to discuss the possibility of either you all replacing the pipe ahead of or in conjunction with the project that we have, or it can be included in the project, and you guys will have the opportunity to reimburse us for that if it is included within our project.
How many running feet of pipe is that? That needs to-
It's as wide as the road, so the normal
Just
width.
the road width?
That's all it is.
Plus-
It's a very small.
So it's not underground and doesn't connect to the repaired drainage system?
Yeah, so right now, they have fixed the middle school field, right? All the way up to the connection to the road.
Right, Hempstead.
Under Hempstead, and then on the other side of Hempstead, the project's gonna replace everything up through the field, up around the track, right? But it's that portion that's underneath the road that is.
That we're talking about.
That we're talking about for the city responsibility, so,
Gotcha.
you know, however wide that road is.
Gotcha, thank you, sir.
30 feet.
Thank you, ma'am.
And so we are hoping that those contingency funds will still be left after the project is completed. If they are, then there are some other areas of great need in the athletic complex. We have a really old concession stand. Press box needs attention, restrooms, weight room, and we need to address the lighting on the current field, because once we put in the new field and the new track, the current poles that we have, I think, are not centered. Is that the word I'm looking for, Mr. Horton? Not centered. And so, we need some money. And so we're asking the city if we may be able to partner to gain some additional dollars to help with this particular project.
Wells, can you go back to the last slide for a second?
Sure.
Do you have a price point for what the cost of those items would be at?
I do not. I have had some conversations with my advisory board, and we have a person on the advisory board, Jennifer Surratt,
Okay.
who is going to try and secure for us some people to come out and take a look and give us a projection of what the renovations might be for these projects.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Mr.
And
Horton?
so these numbers here for that are not included right now
They
because
are
you don't
not.
have any.
We don't have them. We are hoping that the contingency will still be left after the project is completed. If it is not, we are going to do everything that we can to make sure that we can address these issues as well, because there is no way we're going to have this high-quality football field
Sure.
and track and then run down facilities around it.
Well, and I guess that was my point. I would definitely want to see those items mitigated as well, because if we have a $1.5 million stadium, I think that we should also offer updated facilities in the restrooms and the press box and concession stand, because when you're coming into a facility, those are all things that you're looking at.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I think it's best that if we're going to address these items, that we address everything at the same time.
Absolutely.
Well, of course, you know, school board members, at least you do, Dr. Wells. I had the honor of traveling with y'all. And where did we go, Mr. Chairman?
I went to Central Cabarrus, Kannapolis, and West Cabarrus.
Yes, and that one, the last one we went to was
West Cabarrus.
West Cabarrus. Yeah,
Cream of crop.
Man, this thing was right.
Yes.
I laid on every field we went to. I laid down on every turf, I rolled around.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, like a little kid.
He did.
I mean, I wanted to feel it, I wanted to see the difference in between all of them, and of course, the newer ones, I mean, it was great. Asked a lot of questions, got a lot of data. And of course, I am definitely on board with what you want to do. And I will say now that you definitely have my support with this. From everything I've gathered, and I know that there was still talk with the county commissioners during that time, but I see they've come on board since then. You know, I'm definitely on board. You know, this, of course, is a good figure, but we've talked about partnering with the city. One of the questions that, you know, we're in this mayoral race, and, you know, this guy's posting questions every week, and the candidates have to ask them, and the question this week is, what can you do to help to make Lexington City Schools better? What can you do to help to support the school board? A two-part question. And so, you know, I didn't know what we were going to do here tonight, but this is also part of it. You know, giving that support, partnering with the schools. And I do know that from talking with those schools, the money that comes in from the outsiders that want to come and play on a turf field. You know, it's very nice, the numbers that they would share as to what they're making, the events that come. And so, you know, they have proven that it works, and there's no reason that if we do it right, it won't work here.
And I'll agree with that, Councilman. I think this is, again, more informational so for ones who do not know. But I think this is a grand opportunity for the city to partner with the school board to show that Lexington City Schools is an exemplary school, not only academic-wise, but as far as facilities for the athletic point of view as well. We did, a few years ago, I think, Council Lady Brooks, Mayor Clark, and
City Manager
Terrell went to Apple, went to Austin with us to explore partnership in that. Immediately after that, COVID hit, so things happened. So we just wanted to bring things back to the forefront to say, hey, here's an opportunity to partner with us. It also, I think, benefits the city in terms of generating people to come into the city, spending money in the city, hotel stays in the city, things of this nature. So, I don't know if any other board member has anything to say.
Well, I think for me, you know, when this project originally started and talking about funding, you know, it was, you know, what can the school do? What can we do in the community? And that was pretty much my mindset up until I went to Cabarrus County. And when I went down there, you know, I saw a situation where they had built an AstroTurf field in central Cabarrus County about 10 years ago, and at Central Cabarrus High School. And that field was worn. I mean, it was worn out. But it was worn out because it was being utilized by the whole county as well as drawing people into it, right? And that activity is what has led now to 4 AstroTurf fields in the county, Cabarrus County. 3 of which I think were just built in the last 2 years. The real kicker for me was where the money came from was the Cabarrus County Visitors Bureau put up $3.5 million for it to build the turf fields at the high school because of the potential for marketing and drawing people into the community. And so that, for me, was when I'm like, oh wow, this is really more than just a high school football field. This is an opportunity to bring people from the county to the city, from outside the county to the city. I understand it's one field, but that to me made it more of an opportunity for a partnership, right? Where the city could benefit from it, the school could benefit from it, and we could share that financial burden. And so it was that trip that really changed, that really kind of brought that to focus for me. And even, you know, wanting to, you know, talking about us reaching out to the city for this. So that's kind of how it evolved for me.
I think on my end, I agree with Mr. Burton, is that I really believe that this could be, you can really get your return on investment back, so you don't have a lot of funds just that you just spent. So I can see this, and I've engaged some people, especially coached the Little League football, the AAU, and it was like, hey, we can actually generate some income back if we can host some tournaments here, you can host track meets here, you can do all those things. So I think this would be an excellent opportunity to be a revenue driver for Lexington, also as a marketing piece to bring these people here. Not only that, it boosts the economy at the hotels, it boosts the economy of spending locally, it boosts the economy in the restaurants. So I think this could potentially be something great going down the road. I don't know how many other fields around here have AstroTurf, and we would be the only one. And I think that would be great as far as, you know, lowering the time of your return on the investment.
And I'll say, you know, my sentiments are in line with Mr. Burks as well. I'll be the first to say I thought this was crazy when I first heard about it. But when I actually thought about it, I guess more critically, and I received a handout from one of the board members about what was taking place in Cabarrus County. And again, I apologize, I couldn't go. I started thinking about, you know, the keys to the city. Honestly, I started thinking about the way that we have spent money recently. And you know, one of the 7 keys to the city is the city of activity, right? We've been very intentional about ensuring that we have a quality of life initiatives for everybody who wants to address any need that they may have. And so, you know, I'm in real estate for a living, and the property values in the Oak Grove community is just outrageous right now. And one of the reasons being is because everybody wants their kids to go to school there. Well, the reason being is because, you know, those are brand new schools, and everyone wants something new for their children. And, you know, the more I thought about it, I said, you know, this is an opportunity for us, right, to make Lexington Senior High School one of the premier schools in the county. From an aesthetics perspective, I know that we need a new school. However, I think that this is another step in the right direction, and I'm claiming that when we get the new school, right, we'll have a great new facility outside to go along with that. The second piece to that too is that, you know, I think that when they see their city leaders, when they see their school leaders investing, and this is a significant investment, right? I think that effect will trickle down to our students, right? It'll trickle down to our football team and how that. I mean, if you're the first team to play on the field like that, you have to have a lot of pride there. And I think that this could enable us to bring a sense of community back to our sports teams as well. And then there is the economic driver. I think that was the piece that I really couldn't get over, that I couldn't see how this field was going to generate income for the community. However, when I did my research on Cabarrus County, I saw that is a big piece of economic development in their community. And so, you know, I really think at this point that this could be like a win-win-win for everybody. I think it's going to benefit our students. I think it's going to benefit our community. I think it's going to benefit economic development. And I think it's going to help the people to vote for us as council members. I think that, you know, we can say, hey, we send our kids to a school with this nice facility. I think that's something that we won't hear anything bad about if we phrase it from that perspective. So that's kind of where I am at this point.
What's the timeline of development? How long will it take to build out?
It's July 29th is scheduled to be complete.
What, this year?
This July.
This July.
Oh, wow.
That would just be the field and the track. That's correct. Field and track. Yeah.
And that was the part that I left out. You know, our track team has been exceptional. Those young ladies have worked extremely hard and has represented our school community with so much pride and so much dignity. They can't even have track meets on their home field. And I mean, I think that's egregious. I think that's something that we should definitely step in and help as well.
To that point, this is the first time I've had any conversation with any of you guys about this, with the exception of Garrett. But I have spoken to some other folks out there, you know, starting the community and folks chatting. And a couple of things that were mentioned are, your first thing was safety. I've had some concerns that this field isn't safe. But do we know? I don't know.
The track is not safe.
No, that
Are you saying is the
asphalt
actual surface safe?
field, would it be safe?
Oh.
Yes, it would be safe, and I think Mr. Councilman Hope could, he asked all of those questions. The question came up, Ms. McDuffie asked about cleats. So the cleats are the same, everything is the same. It's just as safe as playing on.
No data that shows that actual turf field is.
Oh, of course, you got data that says that grass isn't safe.
Well, there's probably a lot of data that says football is safe.
Exactly, you're right, or you're absolutely right, so.
There's more injuries.
No,
than
no,
that.
no, not that I'm aware.
I think there was some data when turf first came out.
First, yes.
Because, I mean, they were the first turfs. I mean, they weren't built the way they probably should have been built. But now they have improved the quality of turf fields so dramatically that it really lessens injuries
So,
to a certain
yeah,
extent.
and to piggy off Dr. Wells, so before, if you remember Veterans Stadium, things, it was playing on carpet, concrete carpet. Now it's playing on artificial grass. The grass is sewn together, they have separate blades, it's just like grass.
The rubber, they put the rubber in.
They put the, that's called, yeah, the infield. They put the sand, rock sand, help me out, Joe.
And then it can, the next,
The subbase, yes, rock sand, and then the infill of rubber, but they do have an upgraded version of, what is it? Wood chips, but that doesn't absorb as, you have to put a, a pad up under the surface that for it to absorb.
With our draining issue, that might not be.
Correct.
And the field, the picture I see, which obviously is gonna, that field is used for more than just football.
Right.
Well, we play, are you able to switch it, the hash marks to the soccer field? The soccer field's technically aren't even the same size.
It has, picture? So the soccer lines are already on.
They are on it.
Yeah, the soccer lines
All
are
right, well,
on.
you don't have to get up, show me this.
No, because, yeah, the soccer lines are on.
I wanna see it.
Yeah, and we're tacking,
As well as lacrosse.
yeah, we're tacking lines for lacrosse. So what that means is we won't put the lines down, we'll tack the spots. And so if we have a lacrosse tournament or a lacrosse team, we can go out and,
Easily mark.
yeah, mark it, and it'll go away with rain the next day. So it doesn't
And
light up the field.
in all the sports. That's another concern, question.
Congratulations.
Right now, we have 6 lanes on our track,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been told I know nothing about track. Then we'd be foolish if we didn't go to 8 lanes. If we really truly want to have the
Okay.
AAU, the travel stuff,
Okay.
we need 8
We
lanes.
can have that conversation, but we will be asking the city for a lot more money.
We're asking everybody for.
But, right, but we
But if you're
would
gonna do it,
definitely,
why not? I mean, if you do AAU, do they require 8 lanes?
they do not require 8 lanes. The 8 lanes is a plus. But the way our visitor side bleachers are, we cannot go 8 lanes.
So,
We would have to,
our home side.
Home
well, home side as well, yes.
So we can't expand out.
No way.
You have to just.
So you're talking about not just the expense of a larger track, but construction.
Yeah, exactly.
To redo the stadium.
Yeah, so basically you'd have to take away the bottom parts of the stadium on the home side to put those extra tracks. You can't put them on the inside, you gotta put them on the
Sure,
outside.
I want the inside one if you did.
I'd worry about.
Well, I'd be interested to know what that meant if you're gonna do it.
Right.
We're talking about making this investment. I can only speak for Frank, I don't know,
Right.
but I would like to know what that would be if we're truly looking for return on investment. Because I think, I don't know, soccer and track is economically a bigger impact than football.
Draw, for
Bigger
tournaments.
draw, Bigger draw, more tournaments.
Yes, correct.
More people come, when you got more than just 2 teams.
Correct.
It's a bigger event. So I think we should look at adding those lanes if at all possible. That's really all I have. I mean, I don't have, I have to trust you guys that you've done your homework, and this is a need, and this is a need that is this important based on all the other needs that we have. I'm glad that this is the first open dialogue that I've had as a city council person with the school board.
And I'd like to say thank y'all for coming out. I think this is a good model for future discussions. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I appreciate the invite and look forward to, and one more last thing.
Can you see
the storm drainage problem, that with the new storm drainage we have, that's a no-brainer, I think. We just need to know if we should do it during or before or after this happens.
The request was before.
Before or during?
Or during, but not after.
I think that's a low-hanging fruit. No-brainer, I don't think that'll be a problem.
Yeah, and I believe Dan has already had the conversation with her or someone else in the city about what that would cost, and I think that the information from the engineer has been provided.
Could you make those lines black?
I'm about to say, can you see the lines?
Could you make them black again? At one point you made them black. And, okay, yeah, they're darker. I see them better.
And Dr. Wells, did you, when you all provided that information, were you sure that was going to be taken care of?
We did not provide the information.
Okay.
Ben and the county provided the information.
Tara wouldn't have been able to assure that it could be taken care of. We would have to assure that.
Well,
that's where they sent it.
Well, yeah. The reason I asked, I don't think I've seen anything about it yet. So thank you for letting us know that.
I guess my question that I have of the council, so are the other council members aware of all of this? The city manager, the mayor, and what have they given any input to you guys?
I think they're aware, but I can't speak for them.
No, I didn't know if they had any conversations.
This is the first conversation, other than with Garrett, this is the first conversation I've had with anybody here about this.
I think in regards to the 8 lane, it's more of high school, regional, and state track meets, the more they would draw more of that crowd for 8 lane. As far as like AAU and some of those terms like that, the 6 lane.
We just did the 6. And we've also explored with the possibility of the automated finish line.
Yes.
Yes. So which will, if you and I are racing, you know I'll win, but if somehow somehow if it was close, we would know which lane crossed the finish line first.
Yeah. That's right. I think if we're going to do it, we need to look at all those things. If you're truly trying to draw, because we just become a draw for Davidson County. We're not Cabarrus County. And so if we say, if we do this and they will come, that's not necessary. If we're going to do it, we got to do it right if they're going to come.
Well, to that point, Frank, I'm seeing this as a potential economic development piece and tourism piece for the schools.
And that's from my the tourism authority, should they be involved?
But I guess from our perspective on the city council, I'm not seeing this as like a way for us to make money. And what I'm seeing this as an opportunity for us to help the school. So I think I'm seeing it through a different lens that, how financially profitable this is. I think that's something that they should be worried about. I don't necessarily think that's influencing me at all. I think that for me, the way that I see it is, hey, this is an opportunity for us to invest in our schools and give them a nice facility. And what they do with that money is kind of on them at that point.
No, that's not. What's good for this school is good for us and vice versa. They don't make any money off hotels, we do.
Right.
They don't make anything off of restaurant sales, we do. They don't make anything off alcohol sales, we do. So no, if it's going to be a financial impact, it's going to be a financial impact to everybody. Sure, them renting it and not the usage and the usage fees and all that good stuff is going to all be them. Quite frankly, that might be minor compared to the impact on us.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, what would the impact be, right? And who really knows? I just know that Central Cabarrus, it started out 10 years ago when Cabarrus quite what it's grown to be now, right? And they've made a significant investment and have the facilities now that, 8-lane tracks and those type of things that have a larger attraction. But what they started out with was very successful, which is, and what we will be starting out with is much better than what they started out with, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it's going to create a draw, right? How much of a draw, that's, we don't really know. But I think it is something that is going to attract people to the community, right? How many people? I don't know, but I think it will. And I hear you about the 8 lanes. I think it will be difficult at this point to make that adjustment in where we are now. And pairing, what you were talking about, Mr. Law, about, it will limit us with some opportunities, but there'll still be plenty of opportunities to draw people in for tournaments. But I think it's the AstroTurf, right? It's the draw. Right? I mean, there's a lot of tracks around. There's not a lot of AstroTurf fields around, right? That you can play on regardless of the weather, right? I mean, if it just rained, you can play on an AstroTurf field. You can't play on a football field. You can't play on a soccer field, So
you play 3 days in a row on the grass field. You can't play all day on the grass field.
So the AstroTurf is what's unique, not the track, right? So I think we got to keep that in mind. I agree with you, and we thought, we wrestled with this as well. 8 lanes would be awesome, but it just wasn't what we felt was something that was financially doable with the constraints we had. But make no mistake, the unique draw is the AstroTurf. In my mind.
Have we looked at the life expectancy of the field, and is there a lot of maintenance?
It's 10 years.
10 years?
Yeah. So
Could be stretched to 12, 13.
Yeah, but about every 10 years, you're, 10, 12 years, you're going to have to replace it.
The whole thing, or
No,
just?
about $500,000.
The top layers.
The top layer.
It's the field, the turf itself rolls up, and they roll out a new turf.
Did they give an average usage on that timeline? I mean, if we're gonna do it that way, the way that everybody's thinking, would that shorten the life of it? By having all the tournaments?
Oh, no.
No, I believe that 10 years is the typical for a heavy use situation.
Well, I think the theme of the evening is, I was not interested at the beginning. And I had to be convinced, so I did my research. And I did my own research. I didn't ask permission, I just did it. I talked to people in 4 states who have either played on AstroTurf, athletic directors who have AstroTurf, have kids on AstroTurf, the gamut, lots of different involvements with turf fields. And learned very quickly that it's pretty much a no-brainer if you're going to, the field has to be redone one way or another. So it's pretty much a no-brainer if you're going to spend the money to do it, to go ahead and spend the money for the turf and do it right to the good. I had the same concerns that Frank about safety, and I talked to people who actually have played on it in colleges and also have kids who play on it. And one of them said, well, my kid has strawberries on his arms, but he has that on regular dirt, regular grass as well. So no, there's nothing else. From the kids, I asked some kids how they felt. And these are kids all over the Southeast. And all of them said, we hate going to a school that has regular grass now that we're used to it. It is so awesome to play on. And all of the conference meets, competitions, things of that nature that they go to, tournaments, all of them are on schools that have turf. That's how they pick where they go to the ones with turf. Also, one group that we haven't talked about is marching band. It's so much better for marching band to march on turf rather than on the dirt, the grass as well. So that's another thing we could attract would be band competitions. There are band competitions all over the country, especially, you know, in the southeast, so we could attract marching band competitions as well. So there's a lot of usage that we could get, and again, the draw is we're unique. So let's do the turf. We have something nobody else has. Let's face it, Garrett mentioned Oak Grove. I wouldn't have brought it up, but I'm glad you did. Now we can have something nice. We can have a draw. We can be the first in the area with this area. Lexington for the last several years has had a good push for tourism, and we're doing well in tourism. We have the arts with their amphitheater. We have arts groups that come to the Civic Center. Our uptown is second to none. It's beautiful. It has wonderful, unique shops. We have wineries. Our depot district is booming, doing just what we want it to do. Our historic uptown is wonderful. Our farmers market is second to none, this size. So much going for our town. And people come in and go to those events. They stay at the hotels, they eat at the restaurants. But there's one thing that we haven't mentioned, and that's athletics. So to my knowledge, we don't have a big athletic facility to draw people to. So if we draw the tournaments, the high school tournaments, the AAU tournaments, let me tell you, the parents of those kids, some of us were sports parents. The parents of those kids are going to support the rest of the town. They're going to eat in your restaurants. They're going to go down to the depot district and have a good time. They're going to stay in the hotels. So I think it's a no-brainer that we take a very strong look at this. And also, as someone else mentioned, I think Frank maybe, we work together. We're all in this together. And the city council and the school board, we support each other. We're all in it together. It's a win-win for all of us. Yes, we get the facilities fees that we charge, and we get the exposure. You all get the money from the hotel nights and the restaurants and things.
And the reason I mentioned alcohol, by the way, was because ABC sells a certain percentage that has to go towards Parks and Rec. And I kind of saw this as maybe something that they would use.
So, we appreciate you all being here tonight and talking with us about it.
Appreciate the invitation.
Councilman Shepherd, I'll be interested in hearing your thoughts on it.
The Hempstead is a no-brainer in my mind. It's a stormwater issue. We recently took on stormwater, so that's not to me, that's a no-brainer. Otherwise, our bean counters need to talk to your bean counters and come up with some figures. But to me, we also do lighting as far as utilities. I don't know if they do commercial lighting or what.
We did some lighting recently, but was that just at the
we did the tennis courts.
Is that all it was?
Yeah, then we gave them our old leftover tennis court lights
Correct.
to do something with it. And honestly, I think you're selling yourself short as far as upgrading the food service, the bathrooms and things like that. I think it's gonna cost more than $250,000 to do that.
No, that's just surplus money we would use to support those projects.
Right, to support it, but so that's your base goal? Do you have a total goal for improvement of those?
We do not yet. Again, we are waiting for some projections to come in so that we'll know what we're looking at in terms of cost for each of those separate projects.
Right, and I think food service on either side or both sides is going to be relatively expensive as far as, if you want to have a nice facility to complement the nice AstroTurf field, you need to do it right. As Garrett said, I think that you really need to turn some screws on the bean counters on that, come up with some figures and see what you got. But I'd also ask
Whose bean counters, are ours or yours?
both. Because they gotta find the money, that's the point. So that's about my summation.
And I pretty much think at the end of the day, I mean, outside of just being sports or whatever else, it's just setting an atmosphere of a collaborative effort of a school and a city council and district coming together.
Right.
And even though it may be, the foundation may be based on an AstroTurf field or building a stadium, I mean, it's just the point of, we got to start somewhere for something to build on. And I think that if, you know,
bringing in counterparts, and I think if we see, if they see, if others see that as a school district and a city come together, and I think some of those naysayers start changing their minds about what they would do. And also, I think that the thing of drawing to of things that you guys deal with about bringing people, businesses into the city, I think sometimes, you know, they look at those things as well, I mean, in a positive way about, you know, bringing some things in. So I think outside of what we think it may be, I think this can be a more broader perspective of what we consider is just what we're particularly talking about. I just think just setting that atmosphere, setting that base foundation and building on that, I think it's be, and at the end of the day, I mean, I think this could be pennies on the dollar compared to what this.
Positivity is very powerful. Positivity is very powerful. We could have a positive relationship.
And to your point about additional costs for the rest of the stadium, I think there's an opportunity to go to the community. There was an effort already kind of established to work with some benefactors in the community, right? I think with this project going green, that they would be much more excited about putting in some significant dollars to see those other things take place. We've already heard that from them. They wanted, you know, some of their dollars to go to the food services part and the bathrooms. And so I think this opens up that opportunity to, they see this is going to happen, and therefore some of those dollars will follow to help us out with that. But you're right, we need to have that set amount that we need to go for.
And at the end of the day, I just think, I mean, not just talking on the school board, but our kids deserve this. Our community deserves this. Our district, our city deserves this. I mean, the thing is why, you know, it just, with the population we serve, it just seems to be always, you know, we on the back burner for everything. We're always on the back burner. Why we gotta be on the back burner for everything? So I think take some initiatives to move, you know, and forth and make some positivity. I think it's gonna make it totally different. And possibly, I think, change some mindsets to some other things coming.
And our kids deserve a renovated high school and a renovated middle school.
Well, I don't know about that. I wouldn't say renovated, I would say new.
Well, that kind of brings up a concern for me, honestly. I think if we get a new high school, we're going to take the football field with us.
So, I mean, I guess those are open meetings, so put nothing in closed session in those meetings. So, as you guys know, we've been in talks with the county about renovating a new high school. A new high school would be built on location right here, in phases, 2 phases. If it was built somewhere else, then we would get a new complex, sport complex. But since it will be built here, they will not give us a new sports complex.
Well, they didn't do that for Oak Grove. They didn't give them the sports complex.
Correct.
So, listen, I hope we have that problem.
Right.
We figure it out.
Yeah.
But that was an excellent question, Clay. And I thought about that too. We can't take the field with us, but it would involve, and there's discussions.
It could be like Thomasville, they don't think it could be a city.
Yeah, it could be.
You don't necessarily have to have the.
Correct.
But there's discussions.
And from what I understand, they're building it in 2 phases here because you couldn't find property
That is
big
correct.
enough
That is correct.
somewhere else to
That is correct.
do that.
It's 40, it was 40,
Yeah.
48.
So how serious is
How serious is?
the conversations on innovation?
Yeah, they're very serious and ongoing and, yeah.
Positive in the.
You keep saying renovation, you know something we don't know?
I would just.
I don't see anything wrong with renovation. I mean, I might be in the minority in this thing while we're here, but I just think it's a good location here. And I don't know that, you know, where else.
If it's a new school, it would be built here.
So I think the point is that the school's not gonna be anywhere else.
Yeah.
It's gonna be here.
To the extent of the renovation.
And you bring,
No, if it's new.
you bring in trailers for.
So there's a plan to put a new school on this site.
Correct.
Right, now, that versus a renovation is part of the discussion with the county, right? And that's gonna be a long conversation. But there is a plan, a viable plan that's two-phased within a 2-year period to have a new high school here on this site.
And so that I've been told, that something's gonna happen. And that's what I've heard.
The county is amenable to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from a renovation.
He just said it, really.
He said it, yeah.
But it's a long discussion, right?
Yeah, sure.
But that is a good question, and something that should be
But,
considered.
you know, and I think, I don't want it to get lost, because I know this is what you'll hear, what I've heard, what I've said, you know, myself, when I first heard about this idea, was, why are we doing it here? Right? We need stuff in the school, right? And that's kind of the thing, you know, that it's an instant reaction is, why athletics, not classroom? Now, Dr. Wells, I thought, really laid it out well, that there's been a significant amount of investment, right, in the classroom. But I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about others. Right? It's a different reaction. But the field basically was going to be, the outer areas of the field were going to be torn up to redo the storm drain. The track was going to be cut up in portions to do the storm drain. So when this whole issue of the storm drain came up, this whole thing came into play. If we're going to disturb, definitely going to be disturbing the track and sidelines and portions of the field, do we go back with natural or do we go back with AstroTurf, right? And then that's where this kind of evolved into, hey, get our biggest bang for the buck, we should do AstroTurf.
It wasn't a matter of whether we were going to have to do it, it was a matter of which way we were going to do it.
Now, it's not to say that the whole field would have been torn up if we did the storm drainage, and you could patch those parts of the field, right, and still have the existing field, but it was not going to, now is the time to do this the right way. So,
My question to the council would be, what are next steps?
Well, we go back and, you know, we talk to our city manager and find out where this is. The guys who you said gave her that information.
For Hempstead?
Huh?
Yeah, that's for to replace the pipe on Hempstead.
Yeah.
That's just to replace the pipe.
So this is where it's gonna get a little bit complicated. This budget year is so crazy. I mean, this election cycle is so crazy. Budget's crazy because of the election cycle, that there's gonna be a huge turnover for our next budget. COVID may not even be making this, but, you know, I don't know that the money's in the budget this year. I'd be surprised if it is. I think you have support of folks sitting here. I think we can get support to what extent, I can't speak for everyone, but significant, I think significant support could be. But I don't know that we could get you that by the dates that you're gonna want it. I don't know. I mean, that's gonna be a tough sell. I think, I mean, obviously we go back, we have conversations, but at some point we need to come with a figure. I mean, what are you guys, what exactly are you asking us? So that we have something that we could put to a vote and vote on. So that's where I think it needs to go.
Well, if it's not in the budget now, you know, we got another budget that's coming up. And you did mention that we could get it if we didn't have it right now. But I think you definitely have votes, you know. I know I'm confident that there will be votes when that time comes.
And I guess that was my question. All right. I guess that was a question of the timing. And I understand there is an election. I'm assuming we're assuming May.
Well, I think they sent something out, maybe today, saying that it's gonna happen.
Also, so there is an election in May. So your budget cycle is, I'm assuming you're on a fiscal year, or are you?
We legally have to have a balanced budget by the end of June.
Okay.
We have to vote, so we will have to be voting on a budget. So we have an election in May. Doesn't mean we'll be swearing in new members in May.
Of
Matter of
course,
fact, probably
correct.
won't be swearing in
Correct.
new members in May. I don't know, it gets very hairy from there. I mean, what does make the most sense? Do you try to swear them in real fast right before you're voting on a budget that you have no idea about? Or do you vote on a budget and then say, okay, here's your budget that you had nothing to do with? You know,
Well, you have to certify the vote, so I can't see it happening. If the election's on May 17th, they get, how long do they get to certify the vote? You know, Mayor Clark?
To certify the votes, I wouldn't know that exactly, but it
I mean, it's
usually
weeks.
Yeah, it doesn't take, typically, a typical transition period is at least 4 weeks. And
That's what we, usually the votes early November, we're swearing in our first meeting in December.
So
No, that's a lie, January.
No,
December, okay.
So it's typically about 4 weeks, and that, for us, that becomes a difficult issue, because if you were to swear folks in, they would have 14 days to come up with a balanced budget to present to the state.
Yeah, that
New
doesn't make a
council
lot of
members,
sense.
and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the community and the city to do that. So more than likely, we would be having our swearing in the first meeting of July. At least that's what I'm hoping, because I've got a vacation the week after that.
So you'll get answered, but the answer your question is, you know, if I were you and I'm not, I would come up with a figure that you're asking us.
The figure is on there.
The whole, so you think, have you gone to the city, do you have buy-in from the community, have you gone to the community? I said that wrong. If the answer is yes, if this is what you're gonna come ask, then come ask.
Right.
That's it.
Yes.
Then I would get on the agenda and come ask, and let's have it, have the discussion,
Okay. Fair enough.
Now, Dr. Wells, have you talked to Tara any about this?
Tara and I have had a little bit of conversation, yes. And so I reached out to her to try and get on the agenda, and this is kind of a part of what she has recommended, that we have some small conversations, and have maybe the mayor meet with board chair, vice chair, just to kind of start the conversations. So have I asked her for money? No. This is how we recommended to kind of get that conversation started.
Okay, thank you. So I'm obviously walking in the middle of y'all's conversation before y'all get in, and that sort of, so if I say anything that y'all have already said or discussed, you say, hey, we've already kind of gone over that. So obviously, and you and I talked, so I know what they asked you and that sort of thing. And y'all might have discussed this, but it used to be statutorily that cities could not give money to schools. And that has since changed. That has changed because the state wants to get less out of funding schools, and they want to put it down on the local government. It's where that's the camel's nose under the tent, and that's where that's probably going to keep growing from that standpoint. I simply share that with you to say it is a huge policy shift for a city council to say we're going to start funding schools. And that's also something to simply think about here. I'm not saying this is the case, but as the Lexington City Council, if there's funding that the group decides to do, put into a budget, and that sort of thing, you know, Chiefs Memorial can come to us and say they want a new gym. They want us to pay for a new basketball court, or there's a fee for that, and here's a percentage of that. They want to partner with us on that. Those are the things, ultimately, as a council, if we set that precedent, whoever follows us
we're setting that precedence as well. We know that if we have an election coming up in a matter of months, I'm not saying to pass the buck, because that's not what I've been about. But if we're gonna have a huge changeover, and we know we are, because you have incumbents that are not even challenging, they're just not seeking running. So we know we're gonna have a huge changeover, and new faces on the council. And if I would advise all of us in any way, and sharing anything, it's because of that possible fundamental shift of a policy change to that capacity. And it makes sense to me that we say, when the new group comes in, that's who needs to review this. And is that what the direction they'd like to go? Simply because it's that big of a shift in terms of policy and thought. The opportunity is there now with the General Assembly allowing for municipalities to fund schools.
That, for those that don't know, and probably everybody here does, that just recently happened.
And that's my point, that it's a big policy shift for an organization to say we're gonna start doing that. And I don't have to tell y'all, but this elected body is tasked with 16 different departments. And we have major capital needs within our own organization that we are elected to be a part of, oversee, and it's not just the city. It is a city organization that these men and women are tasked with funding. And that's some discussion that has to take place. If you're talking about $550,000, that's over half of what the city invested in to create tax base down in the depot district. And that's direct tax base that comes back to the city. I don't know if y'all talked about, but I know, Derek, you and I talked about partnership and how we partner on this. Are we talking about splitting revenue on events? Is that the type of partnership we're talking about? Or are we just saying, y'all want us to give you over $500,000? Because that means something to our organization that we are elected to take care of. Police, sanitation, fire, all of those things. And we've got millions and millions of dollars in capital improvements that are in front of us as an organization that this council is going to be reviewing in this budget and subsequent councils after us. We've got a water treatment facility within the next decade. Some council is going to decide, are you going to invest $50 to $100 million on that improvement? Well, that's what's coming before the city. We've got a police station, and Derek, I know we talked about it as well in terms of the needs for the physical structure of the school here. That's here. We've got a police department that in the next decade, the city's going to have to put millions of dollars to improving that, expanding that, building a new one. We've got 2 huge economic development projects right now. We've got 2 sewer pump stations, each one of $6 million apiece. Our own organization, we got major capital needs. And we received federal funds, we got $6.5 million. That's all we got. And we're tasked with taking care of infrastructure within the city.
County got,
They got over 30-some million.
and they're not passed with other schools.
I was
I almost
but
pointed out about
you said, I wanted to hear what you had to say right before I stepped out. But I got a question to the policy and everything that the state, where they said that helping schools and funding schools. So is it the council's discretion that, did they specify whether that is towards specific themes, that policy, or is just your discretion to, you can make it specific there? I'm just asking that question.
And some of that, in terms of that detail, it used to be a simple way of explaining that. Cities weren't tasked with funding schools. Municipalities, the property tax and that sort of thing went towards that. It's now opened up by the General Assembly. They're allowing that more because in the past, states funded the principals and teachers, and county funded all the capital improvements. Now there's an opportunity
task may not be the right word, because cities are still not tasked with that. They're just now giving us permission
And so we're learning to,
to do this, which,
allows for us to do. I haven't gotten word that it's can only be used, if you make an appropriation, it can only be used for this. It's not that heavy. And I simply share that because I just, and I'd be having the same conversation with all of us because we've got to look at what's in front of us in front of the budget. When you have a sanitation truck that costs $750,000 and we need to make those improvements, when we have a leaf truck that goes down, all those sort of things, it means something. And I know, Derek, I think, John, you had a suggestion, Derek shared it with me, that, not even asking for it all at one time, over 10 years. Again, that's a policy shift for this organization. And if we're gonna have a huge changeover in council, maybe that's the policy that they wanna do.
So I would.
we had just gotten into that when you got here.
Yeah, so, and I think.
I think that this has been,
And I'm sharing.
I don't know that you really set a
we're at,
precedent. If we have another great opportunity to support, then I would, it's gonna be up to whoever's there, but, you support those things. I wouldn't commit to anybody, yeah, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do it again in 10 years and we're gonna keep doing, I don't think that's really the ask. There is a benefit here for the city, for everywhere from retention, recruitment, pride, financial benefits. It just kind of runs the gamut. Our hotels, our restaurants, all these types of things. If they are able to pull off what they feel like they can pull off with tournaments and the AAU and these types of things, that's where my mind is.
I didn't hear that.
So,
I know there's still more.
I think, I'm sure Mr. Horton already shared it with you. I mean, the idea here is this is different. It's a different animal than just giving money to the school, right? I mean, we talk about marketing our community. We talk about drawing in people from the county to the city, outside the county to the city, right? And this kind of fits that same mold.
And
So it's
partnering
different.
with other organizations to do things, we partner with several organizations that do things better than we do. So that's where my mind is.
So I understand your point, that it is a little bit of a shift of the public school, but this is a different beast in our minds than just the city giving the money to school for a building or a classroom or something like that.
And I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, but because, so I think that's why we're here, because what we saw in Cabarrus County, I know we're not Cabarrus County, but what they started out with in Central Cabarrus, was that seed that has led to what it is now. And I think we could be that seed here for Davidson County. And to your point, there will be new people on the council, right? But you don't stop doing your business, right? You're making big decisions now that are going to affect that new council, right? So you're not going to stop that, and you shouldn't stop that. And I think y'all just have to, make the best judgment. If you feel like this is a stretch, then it's a stretch. But I think we have a unique situation here to have a partnership on something. And, from a shared revenue standpoint, that can all be part of the discussion. I wouldn't have a problem with shared revenue on, if we're, as a board and council discussion, but, I don't see that as an issue, but.
And I said, I don't disagree with you there. The decisions though that we are making are for our organization that we're tasked to do. This is an outside decision. We're talking about funding something that we're not tasked to be responsible for. So that's kind of where I'm coming from of saying, yeah.
Well,
we
you do
still-
economic development. That's what I'm trying to draw the picture. This is not your normal, give
And-
the schools
and-
some money. This is economic development.
And
Right.
part of where I would say, in that sense is,
Yeah.
have you gone to TRIP? Have you gone to TRIP with the county? Both those organizations are tasked with doing events and those sort of
Well,
things. Have you gone to the EDC?
And I don't know that,
This is economic
who goes to tourism, us or them? Who would go to tourism?
Um,
I actually brought up tourism earlier.
So the unique thing here, and you know it, is we're not a countywide school system, right, like Cabarrus. So, we're going to, those entities that are within the realm that Lexington City Schools is in and has relationship with. I don't see the county tourism group supporting our purpose. They would want to support one in the county, not the city, because of our
The city has a tourism, the
situation.
city has a tourism authority as well.
Exactly. Now, if you want to help us have that conversation,
And I think
that would
we
be
should.
great.
I think we
Yeah.
should. And the reason I bring up the county is there's been dialogue for years about a sports complex.
yes.
And my point is, if you want to jump out there and do this and set the standard, there needs to be dialogue with the county. And
Well,
there
we
needs to be
are
dialogue
dialoguing with the county. They're putting in on it.
they're putting in sales tax dollars, a surplus of sales tax dollars is what they're grabbing their 400 plus from. And that sales tax dollars came from the work the city and chamber and Uptown and everyone else has done to get that value up. Dr. Wells, when we were trying to get the money for the Apple initiative, that's where Casey was going to possibly pull some of those dollars, was what he saw in that surplus there, which is great, of what's there.
Sure, and those sales tax dollars are generated by economic development, right, attracting people into our community, right, which is what we're trying to talk about here.
So, and forgive me, because I know, sorry, because I know what time today. Step back for me for a second, because I missed that. Educate me on what y'all are, I know what we had a talk about, but when you say this is economic development, and what I'm hearing from the community that people are hearing me is, I can't believe they're spending the money on that. They need to be, and everyone's got their opinion on what it should be spent on.
So, yeah.
How would
So it's unfortunate that you weren't here,
Yeah.
because Dr. Wells went over, and you know it, how much we've invested in the school, in education, in the Apple initiative, in opportunity culture, getting our kids more involved with UDCC, right? There's been a significant investment in the educational activities, right? But our athletic programs also deserve investment, right? And because of the destruction that was going to take place with the whole stormwater system, now was the time. The track had to be redone, no brainer about that. The field, parts of it were going to be torn up. We could have patched that, but it was time to go with new, right? And once we went down to Cabarrus County and saw how, so Central Cabarrus High School, 10 years ago, started off with an AstroTurf field, right? It has been worn out because people have used the heck out of it. They have, that school system's been overloaded. So now the county in the last 2 years has built 3 or 4 additional ones in the county, and now they're marketing themselves, and to Frank's point, I know we're not Cabarrus County, right?
You might have mistaken that point. My point was, they did that, they had already a more built-in draw. Where I was going with it was, if you're gonna do it, I wanna do it right, all 8 lanes. We're gonna have to.
I know, but I'm telling you that we are doing it right, because we don't, the 8 lane, the unique factor here is the AstroTurf field, not the 8 lanes. Yes, it would be nice to have 8 lanes, but that's not the unique drawing factor. It's that you can play on an AstroTurf field in any time of the year and after rain events, right? And over days, consecutively, right? That's the attraction. That's what's unique.
So it would be 8 lanes, or the track?
We can't do 8 lanes because the home side and visitor side stadium, the amount of added investment to destroy that would be what we felt like was too significant. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Yeah, 6 lanes, yeah, which we don't feel is going to limit us except for high school, national, regional competitions, things like still viable for AAU. But the point was that what we saw happen down in Cabarrus County can happen here, right? But this was an opportunity for Lexington to be on the forefront, right, and be a draw. And that's why we saw it as economic development.
You wait, Joe.
I'm gonna wait.
Focus. So one thing just to.
Oh, no, go ahead.
The other thing is just kind of from a budget and budget cycle and election and all that. We're also experiencing something new, as we all know. Normally city elections are an odd number of years, and now we're going to be the 15th page on the ballot, starting with senators and the school board and city council is going to be at the end of all that. But we're also going through an unusual budget time. The staff's not planning on actually having a budget retreat. And primary reason for that is just kind of keeping a simple bare bones budget because it is unusual in the sense of one, it's not unusual for an election, and every election happens this way. You have an election in November, sworn in December, a month later, you are going into someone else's budget. I mean, everyone always goes into someone else's budget of what's there. But because of where the election's falling and everything that's in there, the staff hasn't, administrative staff hasn't explained how we're going to go through this budget. We're going to do some workshops, but not a traditional budget cycle because of all the changes that we're getting ready to go through.
I mean, why would you not?
And that would be,
to
that'd be
me,
an explanation from as far as some of that was a lot of there's some big initiatives that are in front of us, and then there's some that can that wait to another year? Does that need to be wait for 2 more years? It's weighing out all of that.
Yeah, but I mean that's like a full budget analysis. Why wouldn't we be doing a full budget analysis?
Well, I didn't say a budget analysis. I was just saying like a budget retreat where they're coming in and we're looking at, as an example, we're not looking at doing a tax increase of any sort or anything, trying to keep things as stable as we can.
Why wouldn't you do a budget retreat?
You have to ask that, to the administration in terms of what she's planning on and thinking that we need to do right now. I'm just telling you the idea of what's being floated. It's not been determined yet in terms of what that is, but typically we would already have it. I mean, it comes.
Right now.
Yeah, it would be.
And I've kind of asked, I mean, I think my mind is exactly where yours is as well. I think
we got a lot of critical things on the table.
At her defense, this would, not only would it be happening right now, but it would have been planned 2 months ago. Our retreats take quite a bit of planning, and we didn't know when didn't know when the election was going to be.
Part of it. We thought
in hindsight, we should have. In hindsight, in my mind, it's a no-brainer. We should have. I think we should still be. I think we plan it now if we have it in March or April. But
from what that helped remind me actually, Frank. The election was going to be in March, or that's when it was going to be, and we were thinking that April was going to be a transition, and so part of where that originated back in December, even before that, was Carol was saying, I don't know that we can have a regular budget retreat. How are we going to, if we make a transition in April, we can bring folks up to speed in time. So
she even went so far as to say that maybe involve everybody that's running. They try to get everybody in the room, and then they can't vote, so at least they would know. Where the discussion was trying to get all you guys
I think
to the retreat. Just so much, it's just a huge, never been done before.
So now have a budget retreat.
Well, now that.
Come on, let's, I mean,
Well,
that's kind of
what I
scary.
was sharing with you, literally today, we found out that this is when it's going to be. It's all been up in the air, it's going to be pushed back and the whole thing, so.
But I think we've known for a while now that it's going to be May 17th or later, not any earlier.
Right.
Right.
Right. And so, that, again, that's what we're waiting to see is how we want to go about it.
So I guess what I'm saying, at the end of the day, I guess any of the decisions are a perspective of where you put them and where you value. I mean, at the end of the day. And I think that at the end of the day, and like I said, I don't see it as if just a sporting event or a sports complex or whatever. I see it for more than what it is. And I guess until individually or collectively, I mean, you've seen the numbers that we provided, that we see, okay, if the city did spend $500,000. Well, I mean, of course, you're looking at a way possible, well, how fast can they come back? But that's in somebody's mind, whether it's in everybody's mind here. Or how this going, so it's looking at who's going, I mean, is it going to benefit us? And that's what we trying to propose here. That it in some kind of way, it's going to benefit somewhere. I don't know if it make $2,000, but I'm pretty sure it'll make more than that. But I think it's just a matter of, I mean, I think it's a matter of perspective. And at the end of the day, I just think that at the end of the day, it's just like with any of it, have the city and the city's school system ever made a major collaboration on something? What that is a matter of, getting together and doing it. Just the fact that this is it. This is one of them. I know we talked about it during the national initiative. That didn't happen in regards to that. But I think, like I said, it's just perspective, and so where we going and where do we put it? I mean, so of course, just like we do at our home, we budget certain things to do certain areas, and know that even as a district, I mean, it's stuff that we want to do. We want to pay our teachers more, but we can't. But we find a way to do some things that we weren't able to do because we have to move some things around. So I think it's a matter of how important it is. What if we come together. What could it, what does it mean? What does it look like? And I think, at the end of the day, I just think that it's showing that we here, if we get on one cause, I mean, it may be, I don't know, it may be somebody that, just because of us coming together, that may just write a check for $250,000. I don't know. But I think just with respect to just being able to see it. So I think something that we may not look for, it's just a matter of, I mean, I'm a man of faith. And just a matter of, just because of getting together and showing some togetherness and I'm setting the atmosphere for it, is a matter of somebody coming out and maybe coming to the table. So I think, I mean, I don't think we should draw a conclusion based on budget, that's totally important because we got major things and major priorities on both sides. But I mean, that's just my perspective.
I'll tell you where I am on this is we've done things in our budget that wasn't in budget. Let's just say we had some had some private-public partnerships that I didn't see in the budget there, but we made it work just so that thing can take through. On this, maybe it's not, we may not hit a huge home run as far as being so profitable or building this huge tax base so we can get this huge generation of revenue come in. But I think this is more of a let's take care of our community type thing. And I just believe that if there is a way we can do it, I believe we should do it, only because it's more of a, this is the right thing to do for our community, this is the right thing to do for our kids, this is the right thing to do for their parents, and this is the right thing to do for our city going forward. I can even take the idea of being a revenue generator out of it, and I can just put heart into it. It's like we have to take care of our kids the same way we take care of private-public partnerships, where we just, I'm pretty sure if we had a private-public partnership come up, I'm pretty sure we'd find a way to do it. If there was a $100, $200 million tax base attached to it.
And then,
Yeah.
I know you came that way. But, and I certainly don't want to speak for Ms. Hinkle because she left. But one of the things that she said, and I'll be the first to say that the call you said you got, I can't believe there's been a matter. I got the same call, right? As a matter of fact, I got a call from a constituent saying, how do you feel about, I'm like, whoa, all right, let's talk about it. And Mr. Burke knows that I wasn't totally sold on the idea at first. You know, I didn't know, I couldn't see past the football field, if I'm being honest. You know, when I first heard about it, I'm like, that's a lot of money for a football field. That was my perception of the entire project at first. But as Ms. Hinkle made this point while she was here, and if somebody heard it differently, please stop me. But, you know, we've made a significant investment in the Depot District, made a significant investment uptown Lexington. The farmers market has been incredible. And those things are really thriving. Just yesterday, and Frank saw me last week in Rustic Roots, but just yesterday I was walking down uptown Lexington for lunch. And I was blown away with how many people were up there eating lunch and visiting. I was near Ravenwood and some of the other shops that we have up there. It looks really good. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to extend some of that same type of support to our school. I think you mentioned the word precedence. And honestly, you know, maybe the precedence of giving money to everybody that asks, maybe that's not the right precedence set. But I think the precedence of our city council partnering with the school system is a healthy precedence to start. I really do. I think the next part is, and I said this earlier too, but I think this also connects to one of our keys, right? A city of activity. I think that this attracts another portion of the people who maybe will want the AstroTurf field or the track. I think that, and honestly, and Mr. Wall said this earlier, I think that, you know, if we don't do it for no other reason other than like our kids deserve it. I mean, if we're able to complete this project, our kids feel good about coming to school every day. I'm in real estate for a living, as you know, and you know, anytime a house goes up in the Oak Grove neighborhood, I saw a 3-bed, 1-bath like listed for like $225. People want to have their kids go to that school. I mean, it's just they have a sense of pride, they have a sense of community in the neighborhood, and I think that this could potentially do the same thing for our kids, for our school, for our community. I think that our students will be proud to represent the first school in the county to have a facility of this magnitude. You know, when Dr. Wells was doing a presentation and I saw my friend Jarrell put together the video, I saw so many Lexington legends, I felt the Yellow Jacket spirit just watching it. I mean, I just think that I think it's a wonderful opportunity for our city, for our schools, for our community. I really do.
Dr. Wells, I think there's some layers of things that are happening. In the beginning, you said something about the iPads, MacBooks, Apple TVs, DVCC. Could you just rehearse that, what was going on with it? The students, you said teachers have them, or who?
Yes, so our board has invested a significant amount of money in improving academics and academic opportunities within our district. And so we started with our opportunity culture. We did get a grant for it, and we've extended opportunity culture with some of the ESSER dollars that we've gotten. We've also put money into our one-to-one digital learning initiative with Apple. And so now every student in Lexington City Schools has access in their building to an iPad. Our teachers have iPads, MacBooks, Apple TVs in their classroom so that they can provide augmented reality, virtual reality opportunities for kids to collaborate together on projects and things of that nature. And we have invested a lot of money in making sure that the kids who want to take college credits while they're in high school have the access to do that. And so we have invested money in transportation to make sure that any kid who wants to go to DGCC is not hindered by not having transportation to do so. And they are not hindered by not being able to afford textbooks. And so we've invested in those things. And so for us, we've done a great deal. Now we're just watching those academic investments improve the outcomes of our schools. So now it's time for us to look at the other hand, you know, and that other hand for us is athletics and facilities.
And of course, there are conversations going on when it comes to the building, and it looks like that may very well happen in those couple stages where, you know, there'll be a rebuilding on one part, and the kids will be use trailers for classrooms and all that. And then another part will be done. So there, and I say layers because it looks like that a lot of things are happening just not at the same time, and you're working on this part right here. And this part right here with the facility, conversations are going with that, look like it's gonna happen. But this other part with, you know, the Apple initiative and all of that, that's also happening. It's a reality.
Yes.
But the AstroTurf field, you know, this is another layer, just that threefold piece, and you're working on it. And you heard me say this earlier, I went to Central and West Cabarrus and saw all the fields, I talked to the experts.
And rolled around on the turf.
Yeah, I rolled around.
We should have saw it.
Oh, you should have seen it.
Yeah, I mean,
Did he embarrass council then?
No, he was actually challenging Brent over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
yeah, and I think I have pictures, I don't know. But, and talk to the experts, you know, about what it means for them, the data, the information, the dollars, what it brings to the city, and I know that it is a plus. And of course, I've heard the mayor talk about the things that we have going on, but I also heard Councilor Watkins, who, you know, mentioned that when we want to do something, we find a way to do it. You know, definitely, I think this is something that it would be good to happen. And you mentioned other schools that could possibly come. And I don't know, Sheets, are they public or private schools?
They're private.
They're private schools, so I don't think they have a leg to stand on to access. They could access, but, you know, they're not a public school. Like, this is a public city school.
You know, what would happen, and those may happen, and you may have some truck assistance going forward for a reason. Frank thinks that the state gave permission for municipalities to give money to public schools, so they could fund the charter schools coming into the communities. That's what I think. And so you may get that, you could possibly get the charter school passed.
Help me with one question, just real quick. So I read an article in the paper yesterday, sounded like you guys are moving forward with the same thing. But now we're here asking for $500,000 from the city, that y'all are still moving forward with.
We are. We have an opportunity to have those last dollars taken out of our lottery dollars. We've got almost $2 million sitting there in our lottery account. And if we can't get anybody else to pitch in, this is gonna happen from the students of Lexington City Schools, one way or the other. And so, they deserve it.
So
And we're
the
gonna make it
issue for us is that with these discussions with the county about major renovation or new for the schools, we want to reserve that lottery fund, those dollars for the facility activity, because we're gonna have to pitch in some for that. And we would like not to have. Right? Yeah.
So the question was, from Clark said, saw it in the paper that we pretty much, we're going forward with it, but why are we asking for the $500,000?
So Dr. Wells, are you planning to come to the board with the ask for the $554,000?
If that is the next step, we'll be there. We just need to know what the pleasure of our board is.
I mean, I don't know why you need to come present to us. We all know. I think the discussion needs to be, as we figure out this budget and what we're going through, needs to be part of the discussion. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough to get this budget. To your point,
to that, but we know it's really saying, hey, if everyone, you know, 5, 6 of y'all will say, hey, we want this part of our budget discussion this this knowledge, and that's what we'll need to do. That's what I would say would be our next.
Because Joe's absolutely right. If we want to do something, we make it happen. And Joe, there may not be line items in there that say we're putting this, but there is money budgeted for those types of things. There's not $500,000 budget. We do whatever we want to do, and I can vote on it tomorrow if we want to. But I do think it's more responsible to vote on it in next year's, to put it into next year's budget.
But that would be the money for that, right?
Perfect.
Because when you look at it, the money is for, if I'm correct, I don't know how much is actually allocated to fixing the storm.
But you're not asking for 550 up front. You're saying 10 years, 55 a year.
I think that was previous.
How much of that 500,000 is going to fixing the storm drain?
Which storm drain? The
No,
one
the storm
on
drain
Hempstead?
is totally separate.
The Hempstead
It's
is
totally
not
separate.
Okay,
in our budget.
and, yeah, so we're gonna,
So that's not on the table?
No.
That's not our, Hempstead is a city street,
No.
as you know.
There, when I last spoke to you, that was the.
An option.
An option.
An option, yes.
Okay, because that's, and 550 is a huge chunk, and for this.
So I guess.
Give you a quick example. None of us were a part of it, the only one who was part of it was Mayor Pro Tem, but when the city purchased the property that was down by the depot district, it was $1 million for 1 million square feet. And they immediately went into a lease with Lexington Home Grant for $98,000 a year. And that has now made itself whole, and is now paying the city that lease. That was part of the agreement. It wasn't just chunking out that money. They immediately started getting something back. So, as you can imagine, that was a pretty easy decision for a council to make, particularly when the gentleman that was looking at purchasing that property, we had seen, him buying stuff all over the Triad and just sitting on it. So the city was concerned with that just sitting. And
Although the board still took a big, it wasn't a popular decision.
It wasn't, but I'm just sharing with you, I would think that would have been an easy thing for them to do, because they saw revenue from that, but.
So if I'm hearing you.
But let me, please, I'll just finish, but to the point, and Joe, you made a very good point. I heard you loud and clear. The amphitheater, public-private partnership, and the Breeden family put up about $200,000, and the city pretty much matched that, over time, to make that happen. And that was to create a venue, bring people in and have events and those sort of things. And they, first year, they had 14 events there.
And Clark, like that is such an awesome initiative, and I think to
I
our point,
get it. No, I get it.
and to our point, this field, this facility could do the same thing that the amphitheater, it attracts a certain crowd. If you want to have a concert, I've been to a funeral. If you want to have an event, I think that we can, this AstroTurf field could do the same thing, and I think that's the only point that we're trying to make.
And I think for y'all, and even myself, one of the things that we always talk about is representing the city as a whole. How do we sell that to the community when people do that? Because I think what we're getting right now is people just see it as a football field.
Well, no,
and
but
this is helpful to hear kind of a broader picture.
And I think we provided that. Yeah, I think we provided the vision.
Because because the other thing, and y'all just sharing with you, what I've heard is people say, well, they need to spend it on this. That's the other thing, which, I've been able to articulate, and hopefully y'all heard it more tonight.
I think the
about
majority of the
Apple
people
initiative and
here.
opportunity culture, and being able to explain that to people, know they have been investing in it.
The majority of the people here, we had that. I think almost everybody here when the first, we all had that reaction.
Yeah, no, I mean,
That was
I had that
everybody here's
reaction.
initial reaction.
I get the reaction, right? We gotta help people see the vision. But, it's just like with the amphitheater. The city has still had to fund events to kind of keep it energized, right? You continue.
The music festival.
Two. You didn't have two.
The music festival is the only one that was appropriated.
Gotcha.
Two, but we've had that twice.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
You had two events.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
One event.
But the city funds that. Yeah. And, you give economic development grants to businesses, right, to invest in their buildings. right? Down in the depot?
We don't.
No.
Oh, okay.
City doesn't do anything. We've not done anything. That all comes from the state.
Oh, gotcha.
What you'll read in the headlines, the
Yeah.
city of Lexington gives this, it's a pass-through. It comes from the state, from the Department of Commerce, passes
Yeah.
through the city. And the city holds it until they meet their requirements. And if they meet their requirements, the state allows us to release it, and then it's released. If not, then it goes back.
Got it. It's
We
totally
don't.
state dollars.
Yep, we don't. That's always a misnomer.
Yeah.
We get calls all the time about, we saw y'all gave these grants. City doesn't.
Gotcha.
Same with Uptown, both the side grants, that Uptown Lexington does that, and they're funded by their own supplemental tax base. They give those grants. Now, we did, when we passed the window ordinance, then we kicked them some more money that year, maybe 2 years to help
And that was
with
about
that.
50.
So I just want to make sure I'm hearing. Do you feel it's an easier pitch, 50 for 10?
I do, and listen,
But I just want to remind you as well, what you just said previously. You didn't want to put this on future boards. And it's number 50,000, I get it, but.
no, I'm still saying even the 10-year pitch should go to the next board and let them make that decision from a policy perspective, but it's an easier, but if you're asking me, I think it's easier, because listen, if you're asking $550,000, we got to stand in front of the police officers and tell them why we're taking money out of their budget. We got to stand in front of firemen, we got to stand in front of sanitation, we got to figure these things out.
So you have no unrestricted funds?
No.
The city has no
We have a
unrestricted fund balance?
We have a fund balance.
That you
And
feel.
we've been pushing that up every year because we got hit a couple years ago because we got a ice storm that came through and in one day we had to spend $1 million out of that.
Right.
We're gonna put that back in.
So I think you got around.
We don't have a huge fund, we don't have as much, a big a fund balance as a lot of folks
It's like $7 million.
think we do.
It's like $7 million.
We circulated that, we had 12.
But it's like 6.87.
No, okay, everyone gets it confused.
Okay.
We have different fund balances.
Correct. That
Because
is
we have also have different budgets.
That is correct.
And if you're looking at our enterprise funds, which are, if you're looking at electric or you're looking at natural gas, they have a different fund balance. The city's fund balance, and we just had our capper that just came through, it was around, it was something like just over 5.
I was gonna say 5, I thought it was 5.
Just over 5.
So it was 6.8 at the end in July. Your unrestricted general fund balance, 6.8 million at the beginning of July, and now it's 5.
We just got our financial report from last year.
Yeah.
And what they told us is it's 5, a little over 5. It's what I'm remembering. Now I have to go back and look.
Yeah.
No, I was trying to figure out what 1.8
I wasn't
meant.
gonna say the
The other part of
figure
that-
because Joel said it, he was close, so I thought, okay, well, I must be
The other
right.
part of that, Derek, is the state asks you to have a certain percentage in fund balance.
Correct.
And we're right at that. So, I mean, it's not like we can just start going and giving it away. And that, because we're, like I said, we've been trying to build that back up. Typically, when we spend on emergency disaster relief or anything like that, FEMA does reimburse us. The last time it took them 3 years. So, I mean, when you take a chunk of change out like that, you gotta start figuring out how you're gonna make up for it in that sense. The city operates on about a $27 million budget. That's the city. But everyone looks at our budget as over $100 million, and they think we got a ton of money. Those are enterprise funds. Those are revenue generating. That is water, sanitation, that is, or water, that's natural gas, that's utility. We're allowed to draw from revenue from utilities. But the state hinders us from what we can transfer over. It's only about 3% or a little less than 3% of our operating costs. And what the city typically does is we transfer a little over $1.5 million from each one of those funds into our general fund, help fund everything else. If that went away, we'd have to raise taxes about 11 cents, if that went away. The city of Lexington's property tax, if we collect 100% of all property tax, which we average about 97%, if we collected 100% of it, it's around $9 million. But we operate the city on about $25 million. So we gotta make that up in sales tax and a lot of other things. So it's a big moving puzzle. All I'm saying is, if this group wants to explore it, we need to explore it in the budget and see if it fits. And that's
I didn't think we could do this in an hour meeting, but you kind of touched on it, so I'll bring it up. I don't know. What we can spend those enterprise funds on is marketing. Is there a marketing piece here that the city of Lexington utilities field? Is there
Oh,
something?
if you want naming rights, we can clearly do that.
Well, I mean,
Apparently that's $100,000 per quarter.
Perhaps. But you got naming rights for 10 years.
Yeah, you can't spend
Or, you know what, and I'm glad you said that, because there are 4 quadrants on the field that we could say. So if you wanted to break it down, to say, okay, well, we'll take 100, I'm just gonna throw a number out there, 100,000 here, and say, okay, well, here's 400,000, and we'll do 400 for the next 5 years, or whatever, and 80,000, or however you want to do it.
Well, the marketing budget's not bad, it's only.
You would obviously have to,
It's only about $50,000.
we'd have to raise the marketing budget, but I just mean it's.
Well, I was just, yeah,
allowed.
but the 100,000 don't have to be paid up front either. That could be stretched out, and it could have Lexington Utilities on the field.
Again,
Just a conversation
it's all
we have.
about- And I do think there's merit, and Brent, I think that was part of my idea of what you were saying earlier, get around the table, have a conversation, and, you know, I think it is worth talking to. Tripp doesn't necessarily have any money, but in terms of what is their overall plan to do a sporting complex, and if this is going to be the first thing that's part of that, how would that fit into that as well? Long-term planning is all I'm saying on that. You should have these conversations.
I bet the county just jumps at the idea of helping us out.
Well, I would say, the one I talked to that brought this up actually was pretty positive about this project, which surprised me, but, I don't think that they had any animosities about the fund. Matter of fact, I didn't even bring up the conversation about this field, they brought it up to me, it's like, well, here, how do you feel about this turf field? How do you feel about it? I think it's a great idea. So, I mean, I don't think that they were reluctant to giving the funds at all for this project. And I could be wrong, but that was just based on the conversation I had with one. I don't think that they, you know, were
Well, and to be clear, their funds were to the stormwater drainage.
And to be more clear, they have to do this.
Right,
This is,
right, right.
they are charged with doing this.
Right.
They're not doing this to.
And I think don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing it in any way, but, yeah, if we had control of the surplus, sales tax, but we don't. It goes to the counties, and then it's distributed out basically by population, but they can make larger gives if they want, but what comes to the cities is that based on the population, or on that sales tax goes to the state, comes back to us. I would love for them to, I'd love for the taxes that city citizens pay to the county, I'd love for them to cut that check back to us. Well, that's the sales tax, I mean, that's just people from Charlotte coming in and buying stuff, which is great, but that's part of the argument for the schools too.
So I want to make sure before I know everyone is pressed for time.
And I apologize.
No,
I'm late because I've kept you all over, but
So, I guess since you're here and you missed part of it earlier, Hempstead, we have a major problem in Hempstead. We have storm drainage pipe that needs to be replaced. That is a city maintained road. I think Dr. Will said Ben Palmer, who's with the engineering firm, has reached out to Tara to try to coordinate what's going on. We did put it in our proposal, our bid proposal, because it was suggested that it get done during or before they start tearing up everything else. They're scheduled to start March 1. I don't know what it puts council or whatever in replacing that pipe. We can replace the pipe, but we will be seeking reimbursement. But we figured it's a city maintained road, that's you guys' wheelhouse. The other portion.
So you're saying the portion is underneath the road, just that portion is ours?
Yes. Yes. John, you got the map?
The county has already replaced it from the field
Yes.
to the street. They're having to replace they're having to replace from the football field to the street. Underneath the street is an issue. That's kind of how this started.
it's the same issue with the rest of the drainage.
All the drainage,
It
that's
just
all it
happens to be
started.
under your street.
Yeah.
Right, so that portion, the city would need to replace.
And that's how this ball got going, was we've got all
Might
this.
have to wait till we get Ninth Avenue's whole building.
What's wrong with that?
You know, it's
Road just
blocked
doing
off. It's a sinkhole. We got a huge issue over there too.
It'll be happening all over.
We're hitting that 50-year mark.
It's the second time.
50 to 70-year mark of all this stuff, and it's starting.
Right behind the armory, that circle, but 6 months ago, Ninth Avenue fell in, we're right there by the baseball field, there's a sinkhole there, and it goes Ninth Avenue. Same creek, I guess, I guess.
We're just having growth and more pressure on the system, and we're gonna have these problems.
So what's the remedy for that? Do you want us to pay and we get reversed, or?
That's not our decision, we'll have to take that back to the administration, and they gotta look at that. That is not, and they'll make a recommendation to us if there's something in terms of the budgetary thing, but I don't know what's in their specific budget to address something like that in terms of streets or sanitation, so we have to take that back to them.
And I guess the next thing is, because I strongly believe, we have a meeting on Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
And we got one tomorrow too.
We do
We
have
have one
budget
tomorrow.
meeting.
So,
We have a budget meeting on Tuesday.
yeah, so I think, we, as a board, will decide if our ask is coming to you guys on Monday, or will we come the following 2 weeks?
I think they've already said that they would.
I don't think you need to.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we're gonna leave them here.
Have that discussion as part of their budget.
I don't have to ask them, but I'm sure they're instructing me to go to Tara and say, let's do this and part of our discussion in the budget. Or I would assume that.
Yeah, and then Frank's vote would be, like I said earlier, I know Frank's vote would significant help, but I think it'd be much more responsible to put it into next year's budget, which we're from hearing you guys, that's gonna be okay. That's not gonna.
So you will be fine with us doing it in the following budget?
But, that's, Mr. Wall,
We're reimbursement for it, if we put it in the next budget.
it would probably be a reimbursement, that is correct.
Let me clarify, what I'm saying is that's what I'm saying, is I would be going to Tara saying, we're having our discussion to vote on the budget in June. The council would like this to be part of that discussion, the budget would be voted on in June, and then go effective July 1.
Correct, understood, I understand your fiscal year.
Next year, right.
Yeah, fiscal year, fiscal
And
year.
I think to John's point, we can't do that without having the budget retreat, so we're gonna have to do that.
And again.
To John's point, Harold, Frank's been saying that.
Oh, yes, sir.
Frank's got to jump up on the table.
And Frank was right, that reminded me, that was what the discussion about, if we're having an election in March and we're having a new council come in a month later, then maybe we should wait to do the retreat when that occurs. And then they moved it forward, then they moved it back, and it was like, let's just hold till we find out where it's at. And now that we know, we'll make that whatever she's doing, what they can do. And it's, yeah, that's, the election's the 17th, right?
That's what I hear. I'm holding my breath.
It's the craziest thing. And then the other crazy thing about it is, we've all got to turn around and do it next year. I mean, it just.
Speak for yourself.
I'm not speaking for anybody. I'm just saying that's what it is.
We gotta do it next year.
Mr. Chair?
I'm good, I don't know, I was waiting, actually, I had just texted, guy from York County School Board Association regarding municipality general statute to try to get clarity on that. And I didn't know if it was for charter schools, public schools, or private schools, or all three. So.
And I'll get the staff to make sure they get that to them as well.
I think it's for all three, but I think, it doesn't matter.
All right, so we're good.